Good afternoon, everybody. Kevin Miller here, Garden Plaza of Valley View. Welcome home. Hope you're having a great day. If you have a question about our wonderful home here, 322-0311, 322-0311. We're joined by Paul Orlando. He's a local financial advisor with Ameriprise Financial. His number, 914-6595. Paul, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Kevin.
So what brings you to Garden Plaza and to Welcome Home? Tell us a little bit about your experience here with all our friends.
Thanks, Kevin. I appreciate it. So Garden Plaza Valley View is a home to me. I've actually talked to clients over the years and recommended the facility, and it's mostly because of the feel here that you can see today. It has a youthful feel. It's got all levels of care, which is real important for clients that want to just come to start out at the country club and enjoy a nice facility with their friends and play cards, all the way to the care levels that people will need as they're here.
Right. Well, that is important. And here we are in the afternoon, everybody having a good meal, getting ready for the big game. Let's talk a little bit about what you do.
Fantastic. I appreciate it. So I'm a financial planner, and what I do is I help folks get a plan, and there's a lot of steps in that. And in the old days, I think financial planners might have just diversified a portfolio and helped people make some money. And in today's world, it's a lot different than that. Today, we're helping people sit down and pick out what their goals are. We're helping them diversify, making sure that they understand their risk. And for today's thing, I wanted to make sure that folks were planning for the unexpected. In things like a long-term care facility, a lot of folks don't think about that. They don't know that they could need this care, and they'll have to take some steps to plan for that. So planning for the unexpected is a big part of what a financial advisor is doing today. The last thing I'll do is I'll help people with legacy as well, planning to make sure that their assets are going where they want them to, whether it's for their care or whether it's to their family.
Well, Paul, how do you find someone you can trust in your business?
That's a really good question.
That's the biggest fear.
Yeah. I would think most folks are getting a referral from somebody they know. They're working with somebody, and somebody has told them they've had a good experience, and they're going to get that reference from there. The folks from Garden Plaza Valley View asked me to come here because they've seen me bring folks here, come and have a lunch with them, or visit or do a tour with one of their managers, and basically make sure that the client is in the right place for themselves. I would throw one more thing out there, Kevin. If anybody's ever not certain when they're looking for an advisor, there's a website that's put out called finra.org, FINRA.org. You can look up an advisor and their record on that website. So if anybody has had any issues with clients, they can find all those issues right there. They're reported on a website.
Well, if you don't, are there any signs that you have a bad advisor, generally, Paul?
Boy, that's a good question.
And I know that
too.
you guys are really regulated. There's a limit on what you can and can't say. But just a broad overview for people listening right now that eventually – we're going to have to make some tough decisions, and I know what you do isn't easy for folks because there's nothing more emotional, more secure than your resources and protecting the resources.
No, that's very important, Kevin. I think one way to tell would be, I think people should be able to pick up on it. People should be asking questions about you. It's all about you. If I'm just calling you and telling you I've got a great investment, or I'm selling things or changing things every day, that's not typically part of the planning process or helping a client accomplish a lot of things. I think that a client should be hearing the right questions. And if your advisor is asking about your future, your family, your goals, that's probably a sign you have a good one. I don't think there's anything wrong with comparing costs and things like that, too. You certainly could ask second opinions on what costs should be. But other than that, if somebody's got your best interest at heart, they're probably the right person. They'll be asking about you.
Well, I think everybody's a financial advisor, wants to be these days because of the market.
True.
How important is experience, Paul?
Well, I've been doing this over 12 years now, and I can tell you you're a much better advisor 12 years down the road than you are when you first start. I think it's really important. I think that everybody learns a lesson in this business, and I don't want them learning it with my money, and you don't either. So a little bit of experience is very important. The training that you get is important. Some companies do a better job of training than others do.
Indeed. You're listening to Welcome Home, Garden Plaza Valley View. Kevin Miller with our great friend Paul Orlando, 322-0311. So let's talk about the folks that you have here. What type of work do you do with them?
No, good question. So we'll come across some folks that are getting to a place where things start to happen, and I'd love to talk more about that today, where they might be having a fall, they might be having some trouble getting up or getting dressed, or somebody's not there to check in on them enough. And when those things happen, we start in our planning process to ask people, what is their plan? And hopefully we're asking it well in advance of that. But if we've had a plan, most folks are going to pick one of 4 type of ways for their care. And so when you're planning, you'll ask a client what they plan to do. And if one of their plans was to have somebody help at a facility rather than their kids or something different than that of in-home care, we will come and visit a place like Garden Plaza, and we will come have lunch here. It seems like for folks that are retired, the food's really important. So that's one of the winners here for sure.
Sure.
The atmosphere is usually really important, the level of care that they can give them. So I'll come with them sometimes, or their children will come with them, and we'll have a visit, and we'll do a tour.
Okay, what else?
Well, what else is we got to make sure that we plan to pay for it. I'll talk a little more about that if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. Paul, how does that work? By the way, Paul Orlando with us. He's a local financial advisor with Ameriprise Financial here at Welcome Home, Garden Plaza of Valley View on this beautiful Saturday afternoon. So I guess that's the key. A lot of us, we always joke about winning the lottery, and that's how we're going to financially plan for our future. You know that's not realistic, and you come up with these detailed plans. So.
Yes, I'm still yet to run a lotto winnings, so I'm waiting for that client still. So the facts are 70% of individuals are going to need some long-term care of some kind that are over 65 years old, and that is an astronomical number. Most people don't think it's them. But if it's 70% of people, you've got to have a plan. So with our clients, what we'll do, Kevin, is we'll ask them up front, what are you going to do? And the first that usually starts with the conversation is are you going to rely on family members? Most folks, when they hit the retirement age where they need help, they might be 70, 80, 90 years old. And what we find a lot of times is their kids are in the highlight of their career. So we just need to ask them. Some kids would insist on taking care of their parents, but most parents don't want their kids to take care of them. So we just start with that. What is your plan? Are you going to have the kids take care of you? If they say no, then we're going to ask next, well, are we going to get some help in a place that is a community? And that would be where Garden Plaza comes in. And if they're going to have a plan to have Garden Plaza come in and be taken care of at Garden Plaza or a place like Garden Plaza, we usually ask them how they're going to pay for it. Are they going to self-fund, or are they going to purchase some sort of insurance to pay for it? If they're going to self-fund, that's where our investments come in. We make sure that they're generating enough monthly income to pay for a place. Garden Plaza has very good rates compared to a lot of facilities that I've had clients go to, and also clients won't have to move. They can stay at all levels of care here. So the clients that come here can come and have independent living where they're just enjoying the community, assisted living where they just need a little bit of help, or all the way to nursing care where they need full-time care.
It is amazing when you think about this here, taking care of one's loved ones. So, Paul, tell us a little bit about working with someone's family.
That part Kevin, could be one of the bigger challenges. Sometimes I think some parents will change their mind and want the kids to help. Some parents expect the kids to help. A lot of times as parents get older, we've brought the family in and met them so that they know who the parents advisor is. And sometimes we're sitting down having conversations with the kids. We have recently had a case where the kids might be encouraging mom to get some help and mom won't. So again, we'll do things like tours. So a lot of times I'm talking to the kids and I'm hearing both sides of it, and you kind of, as an advisor, end up being the middleman of trying to help the parents make the decision to come to community. I think that's one of the challenges I feel, because I know that the kids are saying they need to, and sometimes the parents don't want to, and sometimes they think it's the end, and it's not. People live in a community longer than they do without. There's another fact that I think is really important. They say that even though 70% of people will need some sort of care at age when they're over 65 years old, those 70% that need care, about half of them, it's longer than a year. But what we find is the folks that have the assets to cover the care, the folks that have an insurance that covers the care, they're living an average of 4 years longer than they are with folks that are on their own. So I'm trying to share some of that information, even though it's just boring factual stuff. I've tried to share it with the parents or the kids so that we can get them help.
I don't think it's boring and factual, though, to people that are in the moment, and that's the challenge, Paul. I mean, eventually everyone will have to make a decision, and that's why we have this program to highlight the good works that you're doing. It's not a crisis until it hits us internally, and this is happening year after year. We have a lot of baby boomers who are retiring, and we've got another age cohort after the Generation Xers that are going to be, continuing to get into the economy. So, the idea of senior care or parental care is expanding.
It is. No, you make a good point. Everybody needs a plan. Our listeners need to make a decision one of 4 ways. They're either going to have their kids take care of them, they're going to come tour a place like this well in advance, they're going to self-fund to pay for something, or they're going to rely on a government care, or they're going to spend all their money, or not. These things they can be pricey. It's good to know in advance where you might like to be if you're going to pick a facility to get care for.
And you're pretty good at figuring that out for people?
Well, fortunately or unfortunately, I've visited multiple places, and I am good at helping people pick these things out. Yes.
All right, Paul, and you can reach Paul at 914-6595. You're listening to Welcome Home, Garden Plaza, Valley View on KIDO Talk Radio. Kevin Miller with you here, and remember, every Saturday at 2 o'clock, we will be here highlighting the good works, the good stories of what's going on here. We're going to hear from some residents. We're going to hear more from people like Paul and help you make those tough decisions. That's what we're here for on 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. And good afternoon, everybody. You're listening to 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. Welcome home, presented by Garden Plaza of Valley View. Their number, 322-0311, 322-0311. Our guest for this program, Paul Orlando. He's a local financial advisor with Ameriprise Financial. And, Paul, by the way, people can reach you at 914-6595. That's 914-6595. I'm going to put you on the spot here for a moment. When we're taking a look at the financial advisors and stuff, still, even though the markets are blowing up and stuff, still there's quite a lot of people that aren't in the markets because they have that fear of what happened to them in 08 and 09.
Sure.
Especially when you get to be, maybe my age, maybe a little younger, a little older. You don't have that finite time. You have that finite time to figure out where to put the nest egg and how to make the nest egg work for you. So when people come in and speak with you, what do you say?
Kevin, we have so many conversations about 2008, about what the risk is a client's willing to take. What's interesting as an advisor is I'm not saying you could plan for a 2008 because it was kind of unique. Other than the 1930s, that hasn't happened very often. There's all kinds of normal ups and downs of the market. They're going to happen again. Right now, it's been 10 years since we've had a market go down more than 20%, but yet 2008 is fresh in my mind too. I probably overdo the amount of risk we talk because when your market's near a record high, who knows when we're due for the next little hiccup, right? So I want to make sure that we are planned for it right now and we have a plan to take advantage of it. So there will be another market downturn. It's coming around the corner at some point in the near future.
Right. And all the people that have the fear of missing out are waiting for that.
Absolutely. If somebody has all of their money in the stock market today, that might not be the right thing to do. I would encourage them to talk to their advisor and make sure that they understand what that risk is. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. Every person is a little different. Somebody that's 20 years old can deal with the market up and down. Somebody that's not may not. But it's a personal thing that the advisor needs to go through with them for sure.
Well, Paul, and it's a real fear. I can remember, God rest his soul, my uncle, who would be probably in his early to mid 70s. Early to mid 70s right now. No, we're just going to. Please let me just continue here. And that the issue here was that he'd done a good job of saving, an incredible job of saving. And even though the markets were going up, he was paying, because he had Alzheimer's, like maybe up to $10,000 a month in care.
Sure.
No fault of his own, but it's expensive, and just making sure your assets are in the right place. So that's a fear. no matter how much money you have, right?
Of course. If we're planning for a facility, we could be spending anywhere from $3,000 to $10,000 a month. We're lucky in the fact that places like Garden Plaza are less expensive than some others, which is nice. We're lucky that we're in Idaho. It's less expensive than some other states. Every state's a little different. But sometimes that money that's being spent earlier that is needed for next month probably has no business in the stock market, right? If any money you're planning for that's in the immediate future, the stock market's a long-term investment. Yes, it's doing well right now today as we speak, but it's been a long-term investment historically. So we have tools and investments that are made to plan for shorter periods of time.
Well, and that's a real concern because even though my uncle had quite a nest egg built up, very conservative, I can remember my mom for the first time in her life worried about whether or not he would run out of money. Is that a concern for people? It's
a concern for a lot of people. The facts you hear, like so many people have less than $2,000 in the bank account. Those folks are in big trouble. I was thinking some of the investments in the future are probably going to be Top Ramen and mobile home parks. It's like, where are we going to live? How are we going to afford this? But folks like your uncle that planned well ahead, he planned for what his care would be probably too. Whether it was on his own or with an advisor, he planned for what things could cost. I think the important thing is to ask those questions, whether they're hearing it from you, Kevin, or whether they're asking their advisor. Most people probably don't know that you can Google it in 2 seconds that it costs $285,000 they're expecting the average person to spend on their health care. Most people don't have that much in the bank or their brokerage account.
Indeed. So they come to you and you deal with folks here and with other places, but, Welcome Home is presented by Garden Plaza Valley View. So let's talk about the folks here. 322-0311 if you have any questions about care for yourself or perhaps a loved one. The staff here, we usually have them on. They've decided that you're going to speak to us today. What's it like? Because on one hand, you're representing your people, your clients that have this incredible amount of trust, and they're looking to you to help them for a place to live.
Yes, the staff is incredible here. I worked with over the years a lady named Jennifer Smith, and she does help folks decide to make a decision to come here or to visit or tour or help them with other decisions that they might be making. And it's a long-term thing. Like a lot of folks aren't ready just to come as we speak. Jennifer has talked to my clients. She's come out to their house to visit them. She's brought them here with me to have lunch. She's not here to push them, but to help them make the right decision. And a lot of times, this is the right decision. I have never seen anything better than this. Unfortunately, I have visited 5 different facilities, at least in the Valley. And like I said, there's just a feel about a lot of them. They all have their good points, but I've found this to be the best one. I can just think of some of the cases, Kevin, where I've had clients move into a facility, their care level goes up, and then they have to move to another facility because they don't provide the care that the clients need.
Well, and that could be very traumatic nonetheless.
It's really hard to move when your care is escalating, when a client's having some challenges. And then if it escalates even further, they could have to move again. So I think it's really important when folks make a plan that they visit a place while we're young. Just check them out, come see them. And you might not be coming here for 10 years, I'm not sure. But certainly if you're in the market and you're there now that you're thinking about a facility, come now too. Also, when it comes to getting into a place, so many of the baby boomers are aging and we're getting older. I think that one of the challenges is to getting into a place. Many people are choosing a place by what they can get into because of the availability. Here, they have managed to, the last time I had a client come in, they didn't have the assisted living available today. They were able to accommodate my client, put them into an independent living, and give them the assisted care they needed in an independent home where they were living. And it worked out perfectly. And then when the opening came, they put them right there in the facility, the assisted living part, a couple weeks later. So what I've learned is just they will bend over backwards for my clients and friends here.
Well, and that is easier said than done. Paul, let's, there with the Treasure Valley growing, there are so many homes cropping up that don't have the history or the tradition or the accommodations right now. I mean, and they might be great places, but you have people that have been here for years. Some people, their parents have been here before them. How important is that to have that equity in the market?
What do you mean when you say equity in the market, Kevin?
They've been here for a long time.
Yeah.
You ask that not much gets by you. You ask the tough questions right back at me, but that's what I mean. Equity meaning, and you're a financial guy, obviously, that would mean something different to you than to me, but equity I define as length in the market, length of care, credibility.
Experience.
Thank you.
Sure. I think it's important. I notice at facilities that there's a younger generation that's helping most of the folks. Here I've noticed a wide range of ages helping folks, which I think is important. So you can see the experience. They're not just an 18-year-old person out of school that might have just be starting in the industry. I've noticed a wide level of ages and care and experience here. I have had the managers come out to my office and share with me things they do. One of the other things that I think is real important here at Garden Plaza is that it's family owned. I don't know if you guys have expressed that to people, but the experience of the family that's been running the industry and the number of homes that they have, I feel is a very different situation than a corporation, the feel of that. So I guess the experience that this family has run just shows here when people visit. So I'm going to say experience is important.
Well, and that's the most important thing, experience and trust. When you're dealing with your mom or your dad or your grandpa or your uncle, with finding a place for them to live.
Absolutely. Our clients are our family too, and I wouldn't recommend it or mention it if it wasn't a place that my mom could stay. So yeah.
Okay, coming up more with Paul Orlando. He is with Ameriprise Financial. His number 914-6595. We so appreciate his patience. By the way, happy Saturday afternoon to everybody. We're here at Garden Plaza of Valley View. Kevin Miller with you once again. The show is Welcome Home, and if you have a question, their number again is 322-0311. You're listening to KIDO Talk Radio. KIDO Talk Radio, 105.7 FM, 580 AM. Kevin Miller here. Welcome home. We continue on. Paul Orlando with us. So, Paul, let's get to it. We've talked financially, but psychologically, emotionally, how do you counsel people when maybe people have been in their home 30, 40, or even longer? And for us, those are just words, but for you, that's a reality of dealing with people saying, hey, it's time to go.
Yeah. Not easy. Not easy at all. I don't know that it's my decision. I struggle with it with friends and clients all the time. When I can see that it's time, most people don't think it's time. Sometimes they just think they can keep going. And it's a tough conversation. And sometimes they give you permission to talk to their kids and have the kids encourage them. All I can do is be there to support them. Sometimes I'll sit down with them. Sometimes I'll sit down with them and their kids and just talk and keep having the conversation. Again, I think sometimes if people would just do a tour and visit a place, I think they'd realize it's not bad. I think some of them think it's bad to lose control or have to go somewhere and not be in your home. A lot of people know if they want to be in their home or not. And if they do, and if they can afford to, Kevin, we're just going to help them do that. We can adapt a house. We can, put bars in. We can have folks use a walker. Just so many homes aren't adapted for that already. And people, I don't know how many of my clients just walk out to the mailbox without their cane or walker when they might need one. And I had a client that, was stuck at the mailbox for 20 minutes until somebody drives by to help them out. Those things aren't going to happen here. So if I can just get them to think about it, and it's hard when somebody's 80 or 85 or 90, it's hard for them to think about it. We just keep talking about it until they're ready, and eventually they'll tell us when they're ready. It's their decision.
Well, Paul, what's been the feedback from your clients from Garden Plaza Valley View?
They love it. Once they're here, they usually say they wish they came earlier, mostly because they make friends, they play cards with them, they play bingo, they have a shuttle bus that if they don't want to drive. They're happy when they get here. Like I said, I always compare it to a country club, and so some people always picture the thing as a nursing home, and that you have to come to a place when you're at the last part of your care in life, and that's not the case. Having friends and not being alone is a good part of being here.
Lots of activities, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Paul, let's take a look at the money picture here. And, these costs are going to continue to escalate. Whether it's the Affordable Care Act, whether it's Medicare, Medicaid, these are all factors figuring in. And, hopefully there'll be some solution to folks as far as how to take care of themselves.
Yeah. So in order to pay for this, clients either self-fund and they have a lot of money, Kevin, or they'll purchase a protection if they're going to pay for this and they're not having their family help them out. So that would be some sort of insurance or protection. And it's interesting, we have folks that automatically buy car insurance and homeowners insurance, and the percentage of folks that have their home burned down is pretty small that actually use that full homeowners insurance. But yet in my industry, 70% of people we know are going to use some sort of care or insurance, but yet they don't look at that insurance very often. I think it's important for clients to sit down with their advisor and just discuss which option they're going to use. Kid's going to take care of them, pay for it themselves, or have an insurance that helps them with it. Over my career, I have seen a very small percentage of folks actually purchase the insurance. Most of the folks decide to use their family or self-insure and pay for it themselves. And it's mostly been because they are afraid they're going to pay for an insurance they're not going to use. Again, it's interesting. I don't think my house is going to burn down likely, but I still purchase that insurance. It's just a catastrophic loss if it happens. And here, if someone does come to a facility for 8 or 10 years with an Alzheimer, it's a catastrophic loss. It is an expensive undertaking.
How does that insurance work?
Good question.
I know Dave Ramsey talks about that.
So long-term care insurance is really to protect your estate so that you still have that money to pass on to your family. And if you don't mind spending all your money, you could run out of money and have the state take care of you. We have Medicaid for that. But there's drawbacks to that. Medicaid, people picture 20 years from now, if the costs keep going up, that we'll all be in bunk beds in a care facility if Medicaid's paying for it. If we spend all of our money, that's money that could have passed on our legacy to our family for a number of years. So do we want to spend that money on our health care and self-insure, or would we rather have an insurance pay for it? So if we do look at the insurance, the biggest reason the clients didn't purchase the insurance in the past is because they were worried that they would lose it if they didn't use it. They would buy the insurance and it would just go away and they would pass away. Well, if you look at the numbers and 70% of the people are using it, first of all, you're probably going to use some of it. But they've also come up with products now that they'll pair together with life insurance, that you can have a life insurance policy that has a chronic illness rider on it, which basically covers them. It would pay for their care here. So you won't lose it. You'll either pass away one day and collect on your life insurance, or you'll live a long time and you'll use the rider that is on your life insurance to pay for your care. So there's so many choices today to talk to your advisor about to find something that's right for you. And again, I think the biggest part I just have to get across is that clients need to, when they're 50 or 60, make the decision of what's right for you. Is it your kids that help you? Is it, I'm going to pay for this? And make sure you put enough money aside if that's what you're going to do.
Well, how do you determine what is and what isn't a good program?
As far as the insurance goes, you're talking about. Well, I think you'd have to, they are in depth and there's a lot of choices. But in general, it can cost in the neighborhood of $50,000 a year to be at a facility that has care. If you're independent living, it's going to be much lower than that. But if you're getting some sort of care, many people on average could spend in the neighborhood of $50,000. So you could be spending $5,000 a month. So you would basically get a policy that you think wants to cover a portion or all of that $5,000 a month. A lot of my clients, when we do purchase it, we might mix those together. We might say, well, we can self-insure some of it because we've saved a lot of money, but we wouldn't want to lose our entire estate that could be passed on to our children for healthcare reasons. So we might purchase an insurance that covers $3,000 a month for a couple years, even though we know we might need care longer than a couple years. So I think, again, it's just one of those things that, how much do you want to invest in that policy versus how much you want that insurance to cover. On homeowners insurance, they always just kind of tell us what to buy, but like on car insurance, we can buy a lot or a little, right?
Right.
So it can vary.
So it's best to have somebody that knows these issues.
I think they share the cost with the clients, show them what it costs in Idaho, show them what an average stay would be. And a lot of our conversations will talk about their parents sometimes and what their parents went through. It's interesting that history seems to repeat itself sometimes, and if your parents had no care, it's more often that sometimes the kids won't have care. If your parents had a lot of care and, went to a facility or had dementia or needed long-term care, it might be more likely that you would. And so sometimes I think when people relate what's happened to them, they're more easy to, they can look at what they think they'll need in care. I think they can come to a decision easier.
Paul Orlando with us, a financial advisor, Ameriprise Financial. You're listening to Welcome Home here on 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio, Kevin Miller with you here. Hope you're having a great Saturday afternoon as we get ready for college football and all the fun activities that happen. What's some of the success tips, Paul, that you can impart to people that maybe they're doing some yard work, maybe they're driving to a game, maybe they're just listening to Welcome Home for tips on what they can do for their loved ones. But, I mean, some sound practical advice. I mean, we have Dave Ramsey on the program, but since Dave isn't here with us at Garden Plaza, we have you.
Thank you. I got to say, Dave Ramsey gives great advice. I'm sure he'd have something to say about the topic as well. I would just tell folks, make sure you've made a plan. If you haven't made a plan of what your care is going to be, then you have failed at your plan. Have a plan. It's as simple as that. Know what you're going to do when you get to that point, and maybe include your kids with it too. If you are getting a little older and your kids are involved in your care, include them on what you want to.
But does that happen all the time?
Does it happen? No, it's interesting. Old school folks, older than baby boomers, sometimes they feel it's none of their kids' business and they don't share very much, even though we'll encourage them. The reason we'll encourage folks to do things is we want the kids to not, come about and say we're putting you in a home, or the kids to feel like mom doesn't have a plan. When it comes to the money, the older the folks I have, the less they share with their parents. The younger they are, the more they share with their kids. It's interesting. I wish I could get them all, and it's not my job to share what the parents don't want to share, but I'll encourage them to, because that way their kids know. They'll know how to handle their estate. Their kids will know where to visit them when they're going somewhere. Their kids will know that it's all been talked about, and they won't feel uncertain. They won't feel worried about mom or dad.
All right. We appreciate that. Kevin Miller here with you. Hope you're having a great day. You're listening to Welcome Home. Garden Plaza, Valley View, their number 322-0311. You're listening to Welcome Home on KIDO Talk Radio. Welcome back to Welcome Home, Garden Plaza, Valley View. Kevin Miller with you. Hope you're, enjoying the day, and we're enjoying our time here. Everybody's having a nice meal, getting ready for the big game. Paul Orlando with us. He's been with us the entire hour from Ameriprise Financial. So what happens when you run out of money? Does that ever happen?
That's a good question. Hopefully none of my clients do, right? Hopefully we've planned well. Half the world's got that problem probably, because a lot of folks don't save enough. And when folks need care, the great thing about our state here in Idaho is they have a program called Medicaid, and Medicaid is a program that will help pay for somebody's care in the state, but basically you have to run out of money. They'll let you spend your money down to about $2,000, and once you do that, they'll take care of you. Some folks, that is their plan. Some folks aren't going to save enough money to do that. I think the biggest thing that I worry about for clients that don't plan or talk about long-term care, if we haven't had a conversation about it, is that they think that Medicare is going to cover their care. And Medicare is a program that covers a portion of your cost if you go have a heart issue, if you go for a procedure, or you visit your doctor. Sometimes they cover those kind of things, or a portion of those things. But as soon as you have a situation where you're not progressing and getting better, that's where Medicare doesn't work. And Medicare covers up to 100 days of recovery when somebody has a fall or a broken hip or something that's a debilitating condition. So after 100 days, we're on our own, and that's where our money comes in. And so for our clients, I guess it's just another part of the education to explain to them to make sure that they didn't think Medicare was going to cover everything through their lifetime.
Well, what's the impact when that happens?
Well, when somebody runs out of money, what happens, there's some good things again about Medicaid. When somebody didn't plan and they do run out of money, and I don't know that anybody plans for 10 years with a dementia or an Alzheimer's. I mean, that would be a lot of insurance purchase or a lot to put on a family member for something like that. But if you didn't plan for enough and your assets did run out, I guess what I would say is that the Medicaid would allow somebody to get the care paid for. Then what would happen is they will allow the people to keep their house in case the other spouse is still at the house. And then they would attach the house and they would lien the assets and they would take those assets when the second spouse passes. So you still have to pay for it unless you're completely out of money. So the state only pays when there's nothing left, basically, including the house.
Sure. Now, for people that are tuning in, and since we have some time, everybody's wondering about how good the 401k is. Dave Ramsey talks about that a lot. The Roth IRAs. I never really hesitate to ask you about that, whether your company matches or not. Is that a big difference?
Well, sure. So those are probably some of your best tools for saving, right? The 401k. Well, again, I don't want to give advice to anybody specific, but here's what I would say. If you have a match, if you have a match in your 401k, that's free money. And if someone's not utilizing that, they should look at it closer. The 401k also allows people to save money initially, deferring taxes. Some of the best wealth is built through 401ks. When I see my clients come to me with money, the bulk of their money is coming from places like that where we've saved a bunch in taxes, and that seems like a no-brainer to most people. They've gotten match from their employer, which helps that money grow faster. And that 401k can be an incredible way to save some wealth, to grow someone's wealth.
Of course, the challenge, though, and that's where it comes in, the tax deferred, though, is then you eventually have to pay.
True. Everybody's a little different, but when you get to retirement, if the average person's making $50,000 to $100,000 a year, hopefully, they're paying a fair amount of taxes, so they want to defer those taxes. But when they retire and their Social Security might be $2,000 a month, they're in a much lower tax bracket typically. So what they're hoping is that the taxes will be lower, maybe even zero sometimes. So what we find is a lot of our clients can pay a lower amount of taxes in retirement that they deferred. The other one you mentioned, Kevin, was the Roth IRA. If somebody's really worried about taxes, some 401k plans now offer the Roth option, which means that instead of tax deferring the money, it will grow tax-free. So they could potentially utilize that and grow all their money tax-free, and they know what their taxes are because they've already paid the taxes on the money.
I hear there's a limit, though, on how much you can put into a Roth. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. So if you're doing it at work, the maximum you can save is $18,500 if you're under 50 years old in the Roth option or the tax-deferred option. If you're over 50 years old, they have what's called a catch-up, and they'll allow you to do about $6,000 more per year. So at work, you can save much more and defer much more than you can in plans with me directly as your advisor. So if you are coming to me as an advisor and you utilize the maximum in your work plan, or you don't have a Roth option available, I can only save $5,500 for a client when they're under 50 and $6,500 per year. I'll give you an example. When I was 19 years old, the one thing I've never missed for myself, I could only do $2,000 is all they allowed us to do when I was 19. I have been adding to that Roth every single year up till I'm now 49 years old. And that's the one thing I never miss because I love tax-free money.
Well, I was going to say, enjoy that last year in your 40s, brother.
Yeah,
having
absolutely.
just turned 50, I can relate. But is it possible for people to have multiple Roths? Have you ever seen that?
It's possible, yes. If they have multiple advisors, maybe?
Hypothetically, because you can't give specific advice, is that something? Because if you can only put in $6,500 a year, can't you just have that over several funds or something like that?
No, good point. No, you still are maxed at $6,500 even if you have multiple accounts. So if you're over 50 years old, that's still the maximum you can do. You could have your Roths at 2 or 3 different locations, but that would be the max you could put in if it's not a work 401k plan per year. And there are limits for some people on incomes where they're not eligible for the Roth at all. So again, this is one of those things that I would have them talk to me or someone that they're using as their advisor and find out if that's something you can utilize for sure.
Right. I just thought you could open one Roth here, then another Roth there.
I wish.
So because that's regulated by the government or something?
Yeah, they don't want you to have too much tax-free money, I think.
I see. That's fascinating, because I've often wondered that when people said, "Well, you max it out," and I'm going, "Well, yeah, just open up another one." But
some folks, I guess there's only so much we can afford to save at some point too.
Sure.
But yeah, and on that Roth, how it really works is that tax-free is the growth part. So you need to invest it well, make a return, and all that money grows tax-free if you hit all the marks and ages and things that they have a few limits you'd want to talk about, but in general, that's the way it works. Yes.
And then we have people that continue. I have a friend of mine who's in his mid-70s who still is a trader, grew up trading and stuff like that, and still works the markets. It's fascinating because when you're looking at finances and stuff, you have people, maybe some people here that actually, I was going to say play the numbers. That's what it seems like to me, but work the markets and short this and do all that.
Yeah, we try our best to do mostly predictable stuff here for our clients if we can. But that being said, I'm amazed at folks 70 and 80 years old that will do trading, whether it's on an annual or monthly basis or even on a daily basis sometimes. And some of them are amazing at it too. Yeah.
Well, and people are living longer and working longer. You wonder, Paul, if the retirement age, which they talk about raising, will impact how we take care of ourselves and others.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up too, Kevin. I just had a conversation with somebody today who told me they were going to retire and take their Social Security at 62. And the full retirement age for most people today is 67. Our parents...
What will that be for us?
So for us, it's 67.
Still?
Yeah, so we don't get what's called full retirement from Social Security, which is the age that they predicted for us or whatever in the models, till 67. But our parents retired at 65 was full retirement age. Now, our children will probably, I'm guessing, be 70. They haven't changed it yet.
But you hear that.
Yes. Well, Social Security has enough money in its fund to last about the next 19 years or so, based on what they're doing today. And the fix on Social Security at the end of 19 years, if they don't do anything, is to cut it by 20%. And it makes it last like another 20 years, I believe.
But you in our lifetime, we have lived where that happens and they always raise it. And maybe they will cut it, but, there's always a crisis involving Social Security, it seems.
They do need to do something. Only lasting 19 years isn't going to be good enough. That means you and me might have a problem.
Well, I'm just worried about, a couple of years from now, they say, okay, everybody 55 and under, your new retirement age is 75. I was talking to somebody, and that's what they were really advocating, because the idea of Social Security back in the day was, you retire at 65 and you died at 67. That's
Correct.
not the case these days.
Yeah, 70 is the new 60 for sure.
Right. All right, Paul, finally, your phone number if people want to get a hold of you. We appreciate your time, sir.
Yes, thank you. It's 208-914-6595. Appreciate it very much.
All right. Paul Orlando, 914-6595. Kevin Miller here. We are living the dream, and you should as well. Garden Plaza, Valley View. Welcome home. KIDO Talk Radio.